And those who have not seen the previous episodes of Zombie City, check the description box. Hey guys, welcome to Zombie City Episode 7. Christina and Roy are nestled between each other. The girl is both in a state of primitive madness. Naturally, the entry of a third person in this situation is an unforgivable crime, although Shakib did not understand the matter. He made a mistake without understanding. Besides, it is not his fault here. If there is a fault, it is that Henry. He is the one who sent him here. Shakib came down. His face turned red with shame. "Did you call?" Henry asked without looking at Shakib. Shakib's throat shook as he answered. Me, actually, no." He started stammering. "Hey, are you doing me? Didn't you call Roy?" "No, I mean, yeah. I actually couldn't call." Henry frowned. He looked at Shakib. "You couldn't call, you mean?" Shakib didn't get a chance to answer. Seeing the scene in front of him, he froze in fear. By the time Luke grabbed the steering wheel, it was too late. The bus hit a huge signboard lying on the road. It lost control right away. Luke's hand flew off the steering wheel. Shakib fell. Henry's head hit the metal frame in front. He lost consciousness. The uncontrolled bus ran like a mad horse. It crashed into a building on the side of the road and stopped. But by then, something had happened. The front of the bus was completely twisted. If Luke hadn't moved Henry from the driving seat at the last moment, Henry would have been completely paralyzed. The bus was lying on its side. They were all injured. But no one was seriously injured except Henry. Roy and Christina, who were on the roof, came inside the bus. Roy's forehead was cut. Christina's left hand hurt. She was holding it there with her right hand. Her eyes were distorted in pain. Larry and the captain, both of them had cuts on their foreheads. But the injuries were not that serious. Shakib, George, and Lacey were not hurt much because they were on the soft cushions of the seats. Luke had a sore right knee. In addition, his shoulder was badly injured. They sat inside the bus. There were no zombies around. The ones that were there were quite a distance away. They were walking around the road like crazy. They weren't coming this way, but if they sensed it, it wouldn't take long. Then they wouldn't find a way to escape, so they had to get out of here as quickly as possible. They took the emergency kit from the dashboard of the bus and administered first aid. Henry regained consciousness. He blamed himself for the accident. Meanwhile, Roy and Christina started to feel guilty after hearing everything. Stopping everyone, Captain Morgan said, "What happened is done. No one had any hand in it. It was just an accident. It could have happened. Don't discuss it now. Think about what can be done next." "You're right," Shakib nodded in agreement. "Discussing this now is just a waste of time." "Well, how far is the central networking system tower from here?" Larry asked. "I don't understand," said the captain. "I'll tell you when I get out," said George. "I don't understand where I am now." "Then come on, let's all get out." Let's go." They went to the door to get out, but there was another problem. The metal frame of the bus was bent and the door was stuck. There was no way to open it. They tried for a long time. They shot, but nothing worked. Finally, they decided to break the glass of the bus's windshield and get out. But there was a problem there too. For safety's sake, they had put a grill in front of the windshield. That's the problem now. There's nothing to do. You can't go through that side. The same problem is with the windows. Every window is blocked with a grill. What can be done now? No one could come up with a solution. Finally, Shakib said, "We really are a bunch of idiots." Everyone immediately looked at Shakib. Everyone's eyebrows furrowed. "What did you say?" Christina asked. "I told you we're all stupid." "Why do you think so?" Shakib explained the matter. He also showed them the way out of the bus. "We've only been banging on the door for so long. Then we broke the windshield glass and went out that way. But we can get out this way." He pointed to the hole in the roof. "Hey, that's it," Roy said. "Why didn't it occur to me until now?" "Not just you," said Captain Morgan. "None of us thought of this." He turned to Shakib. He patted his shoulder. He smiled unnaturally and said, "Intelligent boy." And they didn't talk anymore. One by one, everyone got out. There were 2 zombies on the other side of the road. Seeing them, they started to come forward. Roy fired with a silenced pistol. The zombies' skulls flew off after being hit by a bullet from the point-to-point pistol. "Hey, this is Riverview Street," George said. "Canyon Street. I mean, the distance to the central networking system tower is exactly 25 kilometers from here." "How are you so sure?" Shakib asked. "He's right," Roy said before George could say anything. "I know the place. Riverview Street. The distance from here to Canyon Street is like that, about 25 kilometers. So we have to walk this way now." "That's what I think." Roy shook his head calmly. "But if we're lucky, we can get a car or a taxi on the road." "George, do you know this place well?" Shakib asked, looking at George. "What don't you tell me?" George said with a smile. "I know Riverview Street, Canyon Street, Laradon, Riverside Manor, these places by heart. How many roads lead to Canyon Street from here?" "There are many roads. Alice Lane, Black Highway, Supermarket Road, and many more." "Which is the shortest route?" "That's what I mean by shortcut. That is, Supermarket Road. If you take the others, the distance will be a little longer." "So we have to take this route," Larry said. Captain Morgan shook his head. He was a little behind. He came forward. "Then there's no point in wasting time. Let's keep moving." Let's go." George and Lassie were also given AK-47s one by one. The others had them. Lassie didn't know how to use an AK-47. Captain Morgan taught her. It's needless to say how much she learned in such a short time, but it was clear that he could do the job. As always, Captain Morgan was in front of everyone. Next to him were Christina, Roy, and Luke. In the middle were the children. Behind were Henry and Larry. They walked forward very confidently through the open road. There weren't many zombies in this direction, at least not yet. They were shooting the few that were there with silenced pistols. They were using silenced pistols so that there was no noise. If there was noise, they could sense if there were zombies nearby. There were small and large houses along the road. Some were very large, 10 or 12 stories high, while others were small, 1 story high. There was also no shortage of small restaurants. All were locked. Who knows if there were any healthy people inside, or if everyone had turned into zombies. They are moving forward very carefully. They have to be very careful when crossing the small alleys on the side of the road. Who knows? There might be zombies inside the alley. They will ambush them. But there are no more than a couple of zombies anywhere. They are moving along the left side of the road. There is an alley mouth ahead. As usual, Captain Morgan went first and peeked into the alley. What he saw terrified him. Hundreds of zombies on the other side, walking around like crazy. The captain told them that. Shakib said, "We have to move forward silently. If they don't notice, they won't attack." "You're right," the captain agreed. "If they don't notice, they won't do anything. But if they do notice, then there will be nothing for us to do. But we have no choice but to move forward." The captain shook his head calmly. "That's right. Then let's move on." "We have to go one by one," Henry said. "Then the chances of being noticed will be reduced." "That's right," everyone agreed. Captain Morgan crossed first. One by one, they all crossed. Only George and Lassie were left. George stepped forward. Shakib was looking at Lassie. Suddenly, he froze in fear when he saw the scene behind him. 5 big dogs were standing. Judging by their shape, they were Great Dane dogs. Dogs of this breed are very large. Each weighs about 90 kilograms. However, these normally calm dogs become extremely dangerous when they get angry. You can tell by looking at them that these dogs have also become zombies. When such dogs become zombies, how deadly they are is beyond imagination. The dogs are at most 20 to 25 meters away from Lassie. The terrible fangs were bared and preparing to attack. Lassie didn't notice it in her excitement. She was just wondering when she would cross this alley, but she didn't even think about the serious danger that lay behind her. No one else noticed it except Shakib. For a moment, he lost consciousness. He realized what to do. He just stared at her with a frightened look. Now, Christina noticed it. "What happened, Shakib?" she asked. Then she looked ahead. Seeing the scene, she also froze in fear. She forgot that there were hundreds of zombies nearby. They would pounce if they sensed their presence. She aimed her gun at the dogs behind Lassie, but the dogs were very fast. Not a single bullet hit them. Lassie was shocked to see this. She looked back. She was extremely scared. Meanwhile, the zombies inside the alley were also angry. They were running this way. The dogs were also coming this way. Shakib called Lassie. "Hey Lassie, run." Lassie was so scared that she didn't notice what was ahead. She tripped over a broken part of the car and fell. The dogs came very close to her. Shakib took a big risk to save Lassie. While shooting, he went to Lassie. He grabbed Lassie's hand and pulled her up, and then a dog jumped on Shakib. He fell on the muddy road. The dog stayed on top of Shakib. It tried to scratch him with its sharp claws. But since he was wearing a heavy coat, he couldn't get up easily. It tried to bite him again and again. Shakib defended himself by punching the dog in the face each time. Lassie immediately shot the dog with her pistol and blew off its skull. Meanwhile, George had come to them. He pulled Shakib up. Then the three of them ran together. Lassie fell and hurt her knee. She couldn't run properly. George lifted one of her arms on his shoulder. Lassie ran with her brother's shoulder on her shoulder. The dogs were coming after them. Shakib stopped and shot them indiscriminately. Some died and some were injured. In that state, they started chasing them, digging and digging. Meanwhile, the zombies had come very close to them. Everyone else was shooting at the zombies, but they were too many in number. It was impossible to stop them. Henry came and caught Lassie. Then everyone started running, but almost all of them were injured. Moreover, they were wearing heavy clothes, with heavy weapons. They couldn't run properly. The zombies were getting closer and closer. If they kept going like this, they would be caught very soon. At that moment, Captain Morgan suddenly stopped. He started shooting at the zombies. Seeing that, they stopped. Roy shouted, "Hey, Captain, why did you stop? Run. They will catch you." "Don't worry about me," Captain Morgan shouted in the same voice. "You guys go. Run. I see them." Saying this, he started running in the opposite direction along another road. At the same time, he started shooting at the zombies. And waving his hand at the zombies, he said, "Hey, come this way. Catch me. Hey." They didn't get a chance to say anything else. They realized that Captain Morgan had saved them on this journey at the cost of his own life. Everyone felt very bad for the captain, but there was nothing they could do. One of them had to do this. Otherwise, everyone would have died. They started running again. Another alleyway ahead. The road split into two and went in two directions. As soon as they got there, hundreds of zombies came out of the alley. They became confused. They lost their understanding among themselves. They divided into two groups. Shakib, Henry, Christina, and Lassie entered the right street. On the other hand, Luke, Larry, and George entered the left street. By the time they realized that the two groups were going in different directions, it was too late. There was no time to turn back now. The middle area was full of zombies. Lassie could not run anymore. She crossed an alley and sat on the road in front of a one-story house. Christina and Shakib's condition was also bad. They were panting terribly. Meanwhile, the sound of zombies running could be heard. What would they do now? Henry pushed the main door of the house. It opened. Everyone went inside. Immediately, he closed the door again. They looked around cautiously. Everything was normal. It didn't seem like there were or are any zombies here. But why was the door open? Maybe no one was home. They had run away. They didn't have time to close the door. The zombies didn't get inside either. They were all hungry. The dining room was next to it. The kitchen was also there. Henry went there. The others followed him. There was a lot of fruit on the table. Lassie picked up an apple and went to eat it. Shakib immediately stopped her. "Don't eat this." Lassie was surprised. She frowned and looked at Shakib. "Why?" "Because it might have the zombie virus." "Then what should I eat?" "These," Henry said from next to the fridge in the corner. Shakib moved closer. That's right," he agreed. "The food in the fridge is safe. You can eat it." Henry had already opened the fridge. There were quite a few apples, grapes, and strawberries inside. There were also 2 sandwiches, 3 burgers, a little pizza, and a few protein shakes. There was electricity. They heated all the food in the oven. In the meantime, they ate the fruits. When it was warm, they ate the burger, pizza, sandwich, and protein shake. After eating, Henry also started licking his fingers. Christina laughed at that. "You've become like your brother." She laughed. "But I don't understand, why aren't you fat even after eating so much?" Hearing Christina's words, Henry stopped licking his fingers halfway. He became unprepared. He coughed for no reason. Seeing Henry in such a state, they all laughed. "I can't quite understand why Carlisa fell in love with you. There's only that look. You can't even speak properly in front of girls," Christina said, laughing. "How did you fall in love with my brother?" "He's just like me," Henry said in a serious voice. Christina was unprepared now. She was about to say something. Suddenly, a sound stopped her. Everyone heard the sound, a very soft sound. Everyone became alert. Everyone raised their weapons. They came out into the hall. No more sound was heard. A little later, the sound came again. The sound was coming from above. It seemed like the TV was playing upstairs. They went up the stairs. The sound was heard better from here. A faint sound. It was like when there was no dish line. The sound was coming from a room on the right. Henry went to the door. Shakib was behind him. The door was wet. Henry slowly opened it a little. He peeked in. The TV was playing, but there was no line for the dish. Henry was surprised to see the people sitting on the sofa. They were sitting very calmly, watching TV. But nothing was happening on TV. So what were they watching? Henry opened the door completely. He and Shakib went inside. He called out, "Hey, are you okay?" There was no answer. Henry moved a little closer. "Are you okay?" The girl sitting on the far left moved. She turned and looked back. Shakib looked at the girl's face for a moment. The girl's face was nothing to call it, just rotten flesh, blood, pus, naked jaws, bones. There were strange insects crawling there. Before he knew it, all 3 zombies jumped on Henry at once. He didn't get a chance to move away or stop him. Meanwhile, Shakib opened fire without delaying a moment. Lassie and Christina ran in. They had been standing outside for a while. Shakib pulled Henry up. "Are you okay?" Henry said, sweeping away the lump of rotten meat from the ground. "It scared me a lot. I should have gone a little further. Thank you." Shakib was about to say something, but he stopped after hearing a sound. The others heard the sound too. It was like the sound of a few people running together. They came out. A full 20 zombies were coming out of different rooms. They didn't delay a moment. Everyone ran downstairs. The zombies also followed them. They left the house and went out onto the street. Then they started running again. Shakib suddenly stopped and went to the main door. Seeing that, Henry asked, "Where are you going again?" Shakib didn't say anything in response. When he reached the door, the zombies had also come. Shakib closed the door at the last moment. He locked it from the outside. Then he started running again. "You did a good job," Henry said as he ran. "But they will break the door very soon," Christina said. "I don't think they can," Shakib said. "The door is quite strong. Even if they break it, it will take a long time." "Yes, we'll be at a safe distance by then." "Where exactly is the safe place?" Henry asked. "Actually," Shakib agreed with Henry, "there may be no safe place here." Christina didn't say anything else. They ran and arrived at an empty field. Lassie sat down on the soft grass. She couldn't run anymore. She was panting terribly. Christina sat down next to her. She couldn't hold her body anymore. She was panting too. Shakib was standing hunched over with his hands on his knees. He was panting like Lassie. Henry was somewhat normal. The boy had a lot of stamina. He didn't get tired easily. He was standing and looking around. There were no zombies around. "Who knows where they are now?" Christina suddenly said. "Who are they?" Shakib wanted to know. "Roy, Larry, Luke, George, them." "Oh yes, who knows where it is?" "We got into a lot of trouble after getting separated," Henry said. "Who knew they would go that way?" Shakib said. "Then we would have followed them too." Christina shook her head. "They didn't understand either. We didn't understand either. We separated because of this misunderstanding." "Don't think about it now," Shakib said. He sat down next to Christina. He looked at Lassie. She was quietly looking at the grass. "Lassie." Lassie looked up at Shakib. Tell me, do you know the place?" Lassie shook her head. "Marcus Lane, Supermarket Road is in front. The road we were on a little while ago. So we can go to Canyon Street from here too." "I didn't say Supermarket Road is right in front of us. We were going that way." "Oh, no one else said anything." They sat quietly for a while. Henry also sat down. "No matter what, they are human. They must be tired." Then he got hit in the head in the bus accident again. Shakib looked around from his seat. He saw a microbus on the side of the road in a corner of the field. He got up and walked towards it. "Where are you going?" Christina called from behind. "Let's see if the car is useful." Shakib replied, looking at Christina. He turned and started walking again. He reached the car. The black window glass was lifted. You couldn't see what was inside, but you could see it from the front through the windshield. But Shakib didn't feel the need to look that much. If there were zombies inside, you would have sensed it. They were making noises. They were humming. But there were no signs of that. That meant there were no zombies inside. As soon as he pulled the door next to the driver's seat, it opened. It wasn't locked. There was nothing inside. Shakib looked carefully. No, there was nothing. He went inside to see if the key was in the ignition. No one else said anything. They sat quietly for a while. Henry also sat down. No matter what, they are human. They must be tired. Then he got hit in the head in the bus accident again. Shakib looked around from his seat. He saw a microbus on the side of the road in a corner of the field. He got up and walked towards it. "Where are you going?" Christina called from behind. "Let's see if the car is useful." Shakib replied, looking at Christina. He turned and started walking again. He reached the car. The black window glass was lifted. You couldn't see what was inside, but you could see it from the front through the windshield. But Shakib didn't feel the need to look that much. If there were zombies inside, you would have sensed it. They were making noises. They were humming. But there were no signs of that. That meant there were no zombies inside. As soon as he pulled the door next to the driver's seat, it opened. It wasn't locked. There was nothing inside. Shakib looked carefully. No, there was nothing. He went inside to see if the key was in the ignition. Check the description to see other episodes of Zombie City.